Adam Beech, how you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. How are you, sir?
Very good. Super excited to be talking to you on this beautiful Saturday.
Yeah, likewise. I appreciate you doing it on the weekend.
Yeah, of course, no problem. Always working weekends. You know how it is.
I do.
Yeah, but we love what we do. So, how the trade show's been? I saw you in Las Vegas, and it looked like things were really popping. Love the booth. Got it all dialed in.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, the trade shows this year have been awesome. We got a lot of features developed this year that a lot of people were wanting from last year, so we've seen a really good response. And just in general, because COVID's kind of, not a thing of the past entirely, but mostly it is, So people are coming back to in-person events, and it's really, really good. The show we just did in Atlantic City, we actually set records for how many people we talked to in the booth, how many leads we got from it. It was by far, hands down, one of the best shows we've ever done. So I can only imagine what's about to happen for the next 3 or 4 shows in our schedule, and looking forward to it for sure.
That's really cool. Being from Arizona, have you seen kind of a difference in pool culture from the East Coast to sort of the West Coast?
Oh yeah, yeah, it's night and day. I mean, not only do they, open and close pools and winterize pools and do winter checks and all these different things that are just completely foreign to us over here, but they have small, well, not everywhere, but like certain regions will have smaller filters, like bullet filters, that they clean as part of the service every single week, and that's very common. Even in Florida, that's very common. We find they do pricing differently based on whether a pool is screened. Some areas of Pennsylvania, in New York, will even do weekly billing to where they send out weekly invoices and get weekly payments to keep their cash flow good. And that's just the way it's done over there, period, across the board. So lots of changes for sure.
That's great. You must get a ton of just inspiration from the people over there in different services to add to the software. And we're going to get all into that. But I'm already looking at it and I'm like, dude, this thing has so many features. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's definitely powerful, and we definitely get a lot of feedback, inspiration, like you said, from our customers and potential customers. We actually learn a lot more from the customers sometimes that don't choose us as the ones that do, just because, we have something that, or we don't have something that they want, or like you said, is something very specific, like weekly billing or something like that, that's not really regional or in our area of expertise. And we always listen to the customers, and we guide the feature roadmap based on that, for obvious reasons.
That's awesome. So tell me, how in the world did you get into this? Because this is no easy task whatsoever.
It's definitely not. And if I knew how hard it was when I started it, I probably wouldn't have. So it's probably a good thing I didn't understand the full scope of how difficult it would be. But I started in the pool industry 2007, maybe end of 2006, early 2007. From the ground up, I bought a route with a friend. It was, we neither one of us had pool experience. We bought maybe 60, 70 pool route, and we promptly lost most of those pools within the first 3 to 4 months because we started in July, and obviously you know how that's going to go for people who don't understand how to clean pools. Thought it was going to be super simple. Obviously, it was not. We ended up growing that business into a company with 35 trucks on the road, roughly, by around 2013, 2014 at the very latest, and then just started spinning our wheels. It was very, very difficult to grow after that, even though we were putting more money into it, all the effort we could. We were overpaying guys thinking we could deliver on quality, like trying to find the right recipe for how do you get people to do the job really well and consistently and keep customers happy, at scale while still growing the business. And we just couldn't figure it out. We were paying people more than so much that we were losing money on it, and we still couldn't get that. We were incentivizing them with tons of bonuses. It didn't really seem to help. We upped our training from 2 to 3 weeks to 4 to 5 weeks and put them through CPO courses. It didn't help. And so finally at some point, 2016-ish, like late 2016, my partner and I were talking, and I was just like, hey, we either need to solve this problem somehow or we need to sell this business because I love the industry and I love how difficult it is. And I love the challenge, but I can't keep spinning my wheels and doing everything in my power to control a good product. But at the end of the day, feel like I don't have control of my business or my product. And so we just basically kind of experimented at first, and then it went from there.
Yeah. So at what point did you decide to kind of jump into the SaaS software game and, not do pools. I mean, that must have been a crazy transition. So help me walk through that a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah. So so basically, once we started trying, the experiments to how do we solve the problem, first we had to identify the problem, and when we really broke it down on why this industry is unique, because that's what it comes down to. When you look at plumbing industry or the electrical industry or HVAC industry or even pest control, there are national brands you can name off the top of your head, Mr. Sparky and Roto-Rooter and Terminex, and you can just name them all because they're huge. They're huge national brands with thousands of employees and hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. There's nothing like that in the pool industry, period, anywhere. And so why is that the case? And we were able to, at least that our theory is, you've got variables that are uncontrollable, and there's so many of them in our industry compared to other industries, and our product is ultimately fragile. We're talking about a body of water open to the environment, and you've got thousands of variables. And I know it sounds crazy to say thousands, but when we actually did the math on all of the different combinations you can have at a property between the pool type or spa, or whether it has a heater, or if it's natural gas or liquid propane, if it's got a sand filter, a DE filter, a cartridge filter, a multi-port valve, a slide valve, and you do a pop-up system, a cleaner in the pool. Is it suction side? Is it pressure side? Is it use this system? How do you unclog this one? It just goes into the thousands for all the different combinations that could possibly exist. And then when you look at the level of skills and knowledge you need to actually really know what you're doing, you need a decade of experience typically, and you need a wide variety of skills across electrician, plumbing, chemistry, hydraulics, mechanical ability. It just goes crazy. And so then how is it practical to think that we can train people in even 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 weeks to really, really know what's going on with that pool, and then have it vary pool to pool to pool to pool constantly? So with that in mind, I know I've just said a whole lot. With that in mind, we said we have to fix this with software. So instead of training the person, which is not practical, we have to train the program. And then when the person uses the program, it's just going to tell them what to do and when, based on one person knowing a lot about the industry who dialed in the program. So you can tell a body of water, this filter needs to be backwashed every 2 weeks instead of every 4 weeks like the default was. They have a pop-up system that's a caretaker system with that little debris screen you have to empty. That needs to be done every 6 weeks or checked every 6 weeks or whatever you want to set it for. And the list goes on. You can just customize it infinitely, and then the app will walk them through what they need to do, and they don't need almost any experience with pools to be able to do the right things at the right times. And that's just scratching the surface. But that was kind of our thesis when we first started building the software, and it ended up being proved correct pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's incredible. And, back to sort of the training of the technician, I couldn't agree with you more, because every pool you have 10, 15, 20 stops, and you're expected to know what's going on in each one of those pools. Granted, owners in the beginning, this is something we talk about a lot, that we knew the names of all the customer. You knew the last name. You knew all the pools you were going to. You knew how to prepare before getting out of your truck. In your head, you were making a mental note that this one, I need to bring a hose with me to vac or whatever it may be. But having a software that really gets you to the destination, remind you of what needs to be done. And if, I guess, there's a checklist of things that, need to be done because of, some things that happen last minute. Might not have been an emergency. It could wait a week, but all of those things that really does help, because training is it's so time consuming. And I never had any good success or luck training the people out there, especially even if they understood it. It was very difficult for them to be out there the following week by themselves and remember one of the, hundreds of things that, were discussed on the route. I think it's critical to do, on-site training, but they should be using some software as you're teaching. So it's like you see here on the app, it's going to kind of guide you. This is going to pretty much tell you what you need to do. So I think you're totally right. Somebody that's been in this business and has had the struggles is going to know pretty much, I'm sure with all the all the different features that the software has, there's probably still a laundry list of things that you wish were added to it.
Oh yeah, yeah. There are tons of things which I'm happy to get into later for sure. But I want to make sure we at least like go over the stuff we got now first. But yeah, no, we're never going to stop building it. I had the dream that every pool guy has with software is we call it the unicorn platform. You want to build that all-in-one system that does absolutely everything start to finish, and it takes care of everything automatically that can possibly be taken care of automatically. And that is, to be very clear, our mission and what we're going to do. We've already come really, really close with where we're at now. You can do all your jobs, your quotes, your billing, your payments, your invoices, your scheduling, dispatch stuff. The app in the field doesn't need Signal. It's a native app that integrates automatically with the server when it does have Signal. The list goes on and on and on. Feedback built in, technician report cards, pay tracking, equipment tracking. We've got all that right now. So it's very, very capable, very powerful, very all in one. But we're going to add a lot of other stuff, which I'll definitely get into in a second. But
Yeah.
you hit the nail on the head there. Sorry, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off. It's your
No, no,
show.
no, no. Please continue because I was just going to follow up with the capability. So yeah, tell me more.
So you hit the nail on the head there when you said that even if the guy is good and tries really hard, it's still very difficult. And that is a common thing that I get is people think I built this because I think all the technicians are bad at their jobs or they cheat or they skip or they're lazy, and of course some of those exist, but that's not really the majority of the people in this industry. They're good people, they try hard, they want to do well. And I've had some great techs that do an amazing job and still turn pools green because you just physically can't remember the PSI gauge level from week to week to week to week on 85 properties a week across six visits, so 6 weeks. And the software can, so it sees those PSI levels automatically. Well, because you put them in, and we do it in a very consistent way, so the data comes in consistently, and then it can tell automatically if that system's starting to suffer from a standpoint of flow. In fact, as like a added bonus, which we didn't even expect, we realized the software could predict with like 95% accuracy when an impeller is clogging long before it turns the pool green. And a human just isn't capable of that. It's not practical, like I said. And again, chemistry too. Like if the pH is low for too long, what happens? You're going to etch the interior surface. It's thousands of dollars in liability. I've replaced multiple interior surfaces over the years for my company, or my former company, I should say. You're going to burn out heat exchangers. Again, $2,000 in repair and cost typically to replace a heat exchanger. It's completely avoidable with the software because it sees the pH week to week to week to week, and then can alert you like, hey, this pH has been below a 7 3 weeks in a row, 4 weeks in a row, 5 weeks in a row. At some point, you're going to pay attention to that and then correct the problem. And that's just scratching the surface.
And that's given that the technician is inputting the correct data.
So yeah, and that's the other thing I'd love to discuss, because that's another thing we always get back is, well, the data is only as good as the technician putting it in, and you're 100% correct there. But the luxury we had for developing software while we still had a functioning large pool company with 30 trucks, 35 trucks on the road, was that we could use it as a test bed to get accurate data. And part of the magic of guided workflows and why they're so necessary, and I think why we're the only program that has them in the pool industry, is because you can get accurate data. Because you have to just make it easier to put in the data accurately than it would be to skip it or lie about it. And so the PSI gauge reading is a specific example where when we first started, we had the PSI gauge reading at the beginning of the job. So it was, the whole thought behind it was, we'll show up, sometimes the pump's already running, or the technician can click on the pump and then do the work and then go back and then, take the reading off the gauge and not have to wait for it to prime. And then that'll be the least amount of time on the tech side, so we'll do it that way. None of the data worked because obvious reasons you probably expect. You backwash a filter after that, you empty baskets after that, and then you're not really getting the data that's needed, which is what condition are you leaving that pump in? Did you leave it in a good prime condition? Is it a zero prime condition? Did it even prime at all? That kind of thing. And so we moved it to the middle of the job to where they can choose to do it towards the end. That wasn't enough. Some people did it out of order. We moved it to the end of the job, and that was much better, but we still had some technicians with data all over the map. So then what we did was we required a picture. And it doesn't take any extra time, because if you're going to watch the pump prime, it takes a millisecond to snap the picture when it's done and then walk away. But when we required a picture, the data was magic. It was all accurate. It worked every time. It reduced our green pools, just that PSI flow at the end, it reduced our green pools by almost half. And the reason was, and we didn't realize it, you don't know what you don't know, that there were a lot of instances of technicians not priming the pump before they left, or just like flipping on the switch, seeing the water rush into the pot, and then bailing out of the yard because they're like, oh, that's going to prime. And of course, we all know that in a lot of cases that doesn't happen. And then you come up the next day or next week or whatever, the pool's green, there's no going back. No one even knows why it's green, because it's primed sense or whatever. And then you're just starting, spinning the wheels, getting the customer complaints, losing customers. And that's just something that automatically gets prevented outright if you use the right software.
I was going to ask if there was like a way where it's like after every pool, like the technician signs like something at the bottom saying that I verified that the information I input is accurate, so that, there's kind of like this liability, because there's got to be some kind of, now that I'm thinking about it, I would have really looked into that with an attorney to been not like you would do anything, but just to add that extra level of security, being like, dude, you don't want to fuck this up or give any bad information that's not true, because this could fall on you.
So it's not like what you're talking about from like a legal standpoint where they have to sign on a dotted line. But keep in mind that what we do, so we don't have any user logins at all for the app. So and to be clear, you log in on a web for your office staff and stuff like that, but the technician in the field doesn't have a username or password or any of that stuff. They just have the app. And the way we link it is that when you create a technician, the phone number and the name is all you need. And then it immediately texts the technician a link to download the app with instructions, and they download the app. The first thing it asks them for when you open the app is what's your phone number. They enter it. It links the ID on the device to their technician profile, and then they'd never have to enter it again or do anything again. It just always works. And so we do that for two reasons. Number one is because you can't claim that your app is going to work without cell signal if you need a login. Because if for any reason you get kicked out of the app or log out of the app and you don't have cell signal, you're dead in the water. You can't log back into the app. And we learned that the hard way when we were testing it. So that's number one. Number two is it is a positive identifier that that person's phone is the one doing the work. So they can't give their login to somebody else. It can't be stolen. It can't be hacked. They have to be physically holding that device for it to happen. So everything they do is definitely, logged as like that. If Jason's phone did it, Jason did it. Number two. And then number three, there is a system of chemical confirmation, because that's the thing that was most commonly, like you said, inputted incorrectly, or people want to skip it or say they forgot it. So what happens is when they reach a certain point in the workflow, if they want to pass it, they just have to go into the chemical section and either just tap a button, it's one tap, takes a second, that says, I'm confirming that I'm not putting any chemicals in this pool today. Or they tap a button that confirms, it says, these are the buttons, these are the chemicals I put in the pool today. It's one of the two. And they have to do it anyway. You're going to have to log the chemicals one way or the other. And so it's just an extra step to make sure they can't forget it. It's not like a legal contract. It's not like a long process or anything. But it's very simple. They just can't forget to do it. And they're giving a positive identification that, like, yes, this is what I did and what I meant to do.
Yeah, it seems very smart. And we've already been kind of jumping into this a little bit, but maybe we can start from the beginning of the capabilities of PoolBrain's software today.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have been going over it, but yeah, it's an all-in-one solution for medium to large businesses to run your entire company in a nutshell. And that's obviously very high level. I could talk about this thing for hours, but I do want to talk about while I just mentioned, the medium to large company thing. The reason I say that is because a 1 to 2 person operation doesn't want or need the same things as a medium to large company that manages more technicians in the field. And part of what we were talking about, when you started your business, when I started mine, we knew all the pools. We knew every single pool, all the details of every pool. We knew exactly what to bring to each pool or what to tell a guy to do on each pool. Once you get to hundreds, thousands of pools, you can't do that. And you also can't be the one that jumps in and covers. So when I talk to an audience of people, I always want to make it clear that right now, our core market is a company that has at least three technicians. So you have usually someone in the central office managing, and then they're controlling, and then the technicians go out in the field, and then they do the work, and it guides them through it, makes it very easy to do it, takes all the stress off them, and just walks them through it start to finish. A one person operation, they want to be able to just do everything from the app, no powerful backend, and they want nothing to do with any restrictions, which I completely understand. I wouldn't want it either. What we are going to be doing is building towards that, though, later this year and early next year, to where we can open up all of those non-restricted things for those technicians with permissions, so that they can hire technicians and do different permissions on who they want to be restricted to workflows and not.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that a little bit because I think that, when we just had myself and my brother, or, just a couple guys, I wish that we were using everything that we were going to use in the future right from the beginning, because even if you're not utilizing all the capabilities of the software, you are, learning, and you're building, SOPs, different processes built on this software that you're using, because it's really difficult. It's like the most difficult thing to like switch softwares, change your process, redo everything when you've got hundreds of pools. But if you can kind of start, all these good habits from the very beginning, it definitely helps, right?
Oh yeah, well, especially if you're looking to grow. So I always put an asterisk on that. Like, one to two technician companies aren't really our target fit for the market unless those companies are looking to grow, because then they understand the value of the workflows, and they know they're going to be handing this off to people, and it's going to be like clockwork, and they can just move on and move on and move on and not have to worry about whether that's being done correctly. And again, they can just control their product, which without it, you think you can control your product, but it's an illusion because there's so many variables, and like we covered with the possible, training scenarios.
Have you ever heard from somebody that actually contacted you and said that they weren't trying to grow?
Oh
Who
yeah.
are who are these people?
There's a lot, and and more power to them. I'm not trying to say my way is better. There are a lot of people that love to just throw on the headphones and go do the work and not deal with the stress of employees, and they make a good living. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not the path for me. I want to grow a big company and then retire and go sitting on a beach in Hawaii, um, or just constantly been moving forward. But it's not what everyone wants, and that's completely fine.
Right. Cool. So let's move on a little bit. What are some of the other key features of the software?
Lots. I'll start with what's unique. So obviously we've gone over guided workflows in a little bit. I could go deeper, but there's other unique things like chemical dosing, like automatic chemical dosing. I'm pretty sure we're still the only one. I know we were the only one for a number of years that does this. Some companies have built-in calculators, but you still have to train the technician on what to do, and they have to manually punch it in. The way it works for us is, as long as you have a gallonage saved for the body of water, and you enter the reading, which can also be required by service level or type. You can go in and say, I want this body of water to make or I want the technician at this body of water to have to enter a chlorine, alkalinity, and pH reading every single week. I want them to enter a CYA reading every 4 visits, and then I want them to enter a phosphate reading every 12 visits, something like that. So when those readings go in, then it's going to automatically enter what they should be putting into the pool in the fields. So they don't have to type anything in. They literally just have to put the chemicals in that they're told to put in, and then tap, I did it, and then move on. That's another very unique feature to us, especially with it being that built into a workflow and fully automated. Another one is built-in feedback for the customers. We added this on kind of late, in the evolution of Pool Brain for our own company, and it just changed the world because we realized that we could eliminate most complaints, most problems, most turnover with customers, but we were still having a handful that would get upset, not contact us, or somehow it would fall through the cracks, and then switch or write a bad review. And obviously bad reviews are a whole different issue and snowball problem. But we found that if we built in the feedback so that we put a job feedback link with a thumbs up and thumbs down right at the top of the email for every email that went out to the customer for either a job or a route stop, and they could tap that with one tap or click it with one click, and it would report it to the office, then people didn't have enough time to get mad, and they didn't not report it. When they get that email and they're mad, they're just like, yeah, tap, thumbs down, whatever. And they can put in more notes or not, it's up to them. But even just that one tap, the office gets notified. So the office can then call them within 30 seconds. So if they tab a thing and they put their phone in their pocket and they walk away and their phone rings and they pick it up and it's you asking how you can make it right, it changes their whole perspective of you as a company. They're instantly not mad. Like, they want to tell you why they were, frustrated, but they're not mad at you anymore. They don't think you're incompetent. And then you go out and solve that problem. You've taken a customer that you were going to lose and you've turned them into a customer for life. And it's a whole different way to flip the dynamic there without any additional effort.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, those negative reviews they can ruin a
Thank you.
business. Yeah, most definitely. Very, very cool feature. And is that they're getting this email when the pool's completed, or could you set up text message as well?
Text message is hopefully coming this year. We're definitely going to do some communication advancements for mass emails and things like that this year. And we're trying to build in texting at the same time. You could always take the link and then text it, but obviously that's not what we're talking about.
Right.
But it goes in, but it does get emailed. So when a route stop gets completed automatically and the server receives all the pictures, because we don't want to send it to them before that happens, it's going to then automatically send out the route stop summary, which has your pictures, your chemicals added, dosing information. We show them the time the technician arrived. We do not show them how long the technician was on site or when they left for obvious reasons. But they have everything they need to know. And then at the very top of that email is job feedback, thumbs up, thumbs down. And then any one-time job, repair job you choose to send will also have that.
Very good. What else we got?
I mean, I could go on for hours.
Hey, just keep on rolling with it.
It's another unique feature, and like I said, I'm just focusing on the unique ones right now. Is automatic, what do you call it? Automatic swim weight notices. So right now, any software out there is going to make you train your technician. And again, our mission is if we can do it automatically, why are we training the guys to do it? And what you'll do is you'll set up in PoolBrain to where you can say, hey, if liquid chlorine or muriatic acid or whatever other chemical you think needs to warrant a swim weight gets added to the pool, I want to automatically include this custom swim weight message telling the customer, wait 4 hours to swim, run the pump, whatever you want to put there, automatically. So the tech doesn't do anything. He doesn't need to be taught anything or told anything. He just goes through his day, enters his chemicals, and then the notices get added to that email that goes out to the customer. Right at the top is a very strong alert you can't miss, completely automatically. Same thing for, just about everything we do with automation, like no access. Right now in every software, if the technician can't enter access the property, they're going to have to get a hold of the office somehow, whether it's built in through the app or external. And then that office then has to call the customer and then it has to reschedule the job or whatever they're doing. The way it works in PoolBrain is, you can just tap one button that says no access. The office can control whether or not they're going to require a picture or a note or both. And so what the tech does is they just tap one button that says no access. They take a picture of a locked gate or a snarling dog over the fence or whatever it is. The customer immediately gets an email saying, hey, we can't access your yard. Here's a picture of your snarling dog that you said was so nice and would never, ever, ever bark at anybody. And then it automatically notifies the office as well and puts it in an organized to-do list so they can do whatever they want with it.
I love that. It should be an automatic feature that kicks out. You're no longer a customer. The dog thing, that's something do not put up with at all.
Yep.
One of the features, and I'm not sure how long you've had it, but I really like the multiple bodies of water, because each one of those bodies of water is so unique. And, you might say that you just do pools, but when somebody's giving you like a good pool and willing to pay more just to, take care of a couple fountains or, there's a, above ground spa or something like that, like, why not? You're going to be in one place, but if the software can, label all those bodies of water under one account, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's exactly how we do it. So obviously you have customers, and then those customers own properties, and they can have as many properties as they want. And then those properties have bodies of water. It's just going to be one pool by default, but you could rename that to whatever you want. So spa, fountain, whatever, because maybe they just have a fountain. And then you can add as many bodies of water as you want with literally no limit. So 50, 100, whatever amount of bodies of water you have at your commercial property, you can add them, label them, put custom colors on them, custom workflows, track chemical expenses by body of water. You can bill by body of water automatically, charge chemicals or not by body of water. Everything. You can say on this body of water, this filter needs to be backwashed every week, and on this body of water, the filter needs to be backwashed every 6 visits, and clean this salt cell over here, but don't over here. Whatever you want to dial in the property. It's all about just setting up the software like you're flipping switches and turning knobs and then walking away from it, set it, forget it style.
Love it. Do you have something set up to where I've asked this every software company that we've talked to, but you have something in place where somebody wants a pool service bid and you go there, you take all the photos, you kind of do everything. Is there a way of sending them a bid and kind of, I guess it would be a quote, but it's not a one-time quote. It's for ongoing service. You know what I mean? So it's not like they're going to get sent follow-up emails or anything like that. So it's like sending an initial bid. Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, so sending quotes out. I mean, I think that's what you're asking. I don't know if there was something more specific.
I haven't messed with this in a while, like with the bids, but I just remember it was never like just because they're a bid and a quote is like different. You know what I mean? Like ongoing service, I feel like is different than, a quote for like a one-off repair or something like that, because you're going to, put a credit card on file. It's like, I don't want you to pay for this right now. Like I'm going to need more. I need to know if you're going to say yes. And if you do there's a whole other process where I'm going to need your card information or your bank routing and all that different stuff for ongoing service.
Yes, so right now you would send out a quote. So you'd send it out, whether it's for a one-time install or ongoing service. If you wanted to have an actual quote physically approved by a customer, you would just send it out as a quote saying, here's what we're going to do, and this is what it's going to cost. And they can approve it, and it'll automatically, save as that history. I think what you might be talking about is like a contract versus a quote, which is kind of semantics since a quote kind of is a contract. But I think you mean more traditional contract, or then have it spit off automated workflows into like, here's what's going to happen next or something. And what the process is currently is you'd send out a quote or not, depending on what you do for your business for that service. You could get a credit card or a bank account number from them and save it on file as a payment method, or you can save multiple payment methods on file right inside PoolBrain. You can then activate their route schedule with one click. It just flips it right on, so you can have your frequency and your billing schedule attached to the same place. The reason we did that is because I learned the hard way with my own business and software that when you're setting up new customers with most software, you have to do 5-6 steps to activate them and 5-6 steps to cancel them. You're creating a job, you're making a recurring job, you're creating an invoice, making a recurring invoice, attaching the two. Then you have to set up checklist items, then you have to put them on a route, and it's just this constant thing. With our program, it's just one click, it's all there, and your defaults fill in automatically for your structured pricing. So for example, if you have different pricing for your full service level and chemical plus service level, which you obviously would, but you charge differently for full service on a play pool than full service on a dive pool, you would just have service levels and types set up so that you just select them for the property and it automatically fills in the settings for the workflows and it automatically fills in what you charge for the billing with one click. And then you just drag and drop into a route and it's over. And when you want to cancel that customer, it's one click to cancel. If it's like, hey, cancel me immediately, one click, their billing schedule's killed, their route's killed, it's all done. If they say cancel me at the end of the month or next month, you just set a date and then it does it automatically on that date and you can just set it and forget it and walk away.
Nice. So what are some of the most common things that, you're at the trade shows. What is like the number one thing that pool companies are asking if the software does or not?
Well, mostly it's billing, and we definitely do. People, not to mention names, but there are other software platforms out there that have promised billing for a long time, and it hasn't materialized. But we've had billing for about a year and a half built into the platform, and so I think that's what it is. It's just people have been trained to basically be suspect. When I say when they'll come up to me and say, "Hey, does your product do billing?" I'll say yes, and they'll say, "Does it integrate with QuickBooks?" And I'll say yes. And they'll be like, "Ha, so it doesn't really do billing; it does it through QuickBooks." And I'll be like, "No, no, no, that's optional. We have both." And so I'll have to explain that, and that's kind of the challenge is to get people to understand that what they want, which is billing built into the program, we do have, but we also integrate two ways automatically with QuickBooks Online for your accounting package and your complex reporting and tax reporting and stuff like that. That's by far the most requested. Then you go down just like a hodgepodge list of what people all want. I'll say the one thing that we're getting requests for that we don't have right now is inventory, but that's going to be on the roadmap for later this year, 100%. We're going to build out a full inventory package where you can literally track automatically how many tabs you have in each truck. Do you have half a gallon of liquid? Do you have a full gallon of liquid? What parts do you have on hand? And then when they go to the warehouse in the morning, they can just, that has a list of all the parts they need to do for the day because it's all there on the jobs. And they can either, it'll show them what's on their truck and how many of them they have on their truck and what they definitely don't have and have to get from the warehouse, whether it's, the supplier's warehouse or the office's warehouse. And then they can just indicate with a swipe like where it came from. It goes on the truck, and then when they do the job and they confirm the job's done with all parts, they come off the truck and they get stored on that property. So you have a chain of accountability and tracking start to finish. And we're really excited about that. A lot of people sometimes confuse inventory with tracking, like use, and we definitely do that. So you can see how much chemical you've used or what parts you've used and where you've used them right now. But that's different than saying I have a physical quantity of something in a certain place right now, and that's inventory.
Yeah, it's nice to know like if there's a price connected to your inventory and how much money is actually sitting in your warehouse or just an inventory in general.
Yep.
So back to the billing, maybe just give a bird's eye view on how the billing actually works. Like what can somebody expect, not the QuickBooks version, but how does, the billing work inside your software?
Yeah, I mean it's it's basically what you would expect from any good software. It's all built right in. So you can go to any customer, for example, and you scroll down and you can see their sections like jobs, quotes, invoices, payments, etc. You can also see that at a company level or some other different levels, but let's just say we're dealing with a customer level. And you can go into the invoice section. You can see the list of all the invoices and what status they're in. Are they awaiting payment? Are they paid? Are they partially paid? Are they past due? It'll show you that. You can sort by that. You can search by that. Then you pop open an invoice and you'll see line items and everything else you'd expect to see on an invoice, plus the ability to either take a payment directly on the invoice, so credit card, bank account, cash, check, whatever you want, or you could apply an existing payment or credit that's sitting there on the account. You could have a saved payment method that you use, etc. It's the same thing for payments. You pop open a payment, you'll see all the details, and then you could apply or unapply it to an invoice. You can do partial payments, you can do refunds right in the system. It's all built right in. And on those invoices and quotes, you'll be able to see a history of exactly every single action that's been done. So who added what line item where, when a customer paid or a user added a payment, or what description they changed or quantity they changed. So you're never wondering what happened with something. You can also see who sent the invoice to the customer and when and what date, what time. You can also see when the customer viewed the invoice. And this is the thing that was really, really cool when we added it. And we thought it would be cool, but it was actually a lot cooler than we expected. When you're chasing down money from past due invoices or open quotes trying to get approval, it's always like a lot of times it's like yelling into a black hole and you don't even know if they're receiving them, right? But now you can see at a glance with an icon right on top of the invoice or the quote, you can see if the customer viewed it, what date they viewed it, and what time they viewed it, and every single time they viewed it. So you
Wow.
have power and you have vision on the whole situation there.
So you could be like, hey, asshole, I know you saw my invoice. You saw my email.
Well, you know what tone to take with them. That's the thing, because it could be friendly, 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 because you don't know if they're getting them or not. But once you
Oh,
know
it
that,
went to my spam.
yeah,
No, it didn't.
Yeah, once you know they're dodging you, it's a little bit different avenue of approach.
That's awesome. So can you store credit cards on there so
Mhm.
that they can the reoccurring charges every month?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I should probably talk about billing for automate. That's how you do manual billing, right? Or just how you manage it. But the automatic billing can be built right into that route schedule, like I was saying, with that one click. You activate the route schedule, the frequency is there, the billing stuff is there, and you can just turn on a switch that says auto charge, and then select whatever stored payment method you want, bank account, credit card, whatever you have stored on file. And so when it's all set up in an ideal way, you won't touch billing at all on the first of the month when these invoices get created. What will happen is the system will look at all your settings, whether you bill in advance or arrears, whether you bill per visit or a monthly flat rate, whether you have different body of water amounts, whether you charge for chemicals additional and what those charges are. They'll calculate them, they'll put them on the invoice automatically, create the invoice, charge the invoice automatically for whatever payment method you said it should be charged to, apply that to the invoice automatically, and then email the invoice automatically to the customer with with a note saying, "Hey, thank you for your payment. This invoice is paid. Here's your paid invoice for reference." So you won't touch it. And on the situation where the card declines, the customer will instead get an email saying like, "Hey, you owe this money on the invoice. Can you pay it? Here's a link to pay it." And then not only that, but you can set up the system in PoolBrain to automatically retry that card once per day for up to 14 days. So you don't have to keep trying to hit a declined card on your own.
Dude, that is incredible. I know there's some people that have glowing eyes right now listening to this. Um, yeah, that's that. I can imagine that that's probably the biggest struggle is you have all the work that's already hard enough, but dedicating that 1-2 days to billing and chasing money down, and oh man, it just
Oh yeah. Well, and
sucks.
then of course, the bigger you are, the more it affects you, and that's the whole point.
Yeah. So if this software is used correctly, and say a medium-sized business, large business has never used something like this before, I mean, what can it do for your business?
I mean, this is going to sound like a crazy claim, but it can change your life. I mean, it'll absolutely revolutionize what you're doing. Like I said, I was spinning my wheels on my own business and just putting out more money every year to just stay even. And it wasn't unique. You could watch some of the largest companies in the pool industry at that time, like for example, Poolman. They had about 4 to 6 thousand pools when I first started, kind of knowing that they were around in like 2008, 2009, whatever it was. And then when I sold my business to them in 2020, early 2020, they had about 4 to 6 thousand pools. And again, it's because they faced all the same problems that every other company faces. And in other big companies, it was the same way. They didn't grow. So what happened was I would go to sleep every night with like anxiety in my stomach on what's going, can I control this, just what fires do I need to put out the next day to stop people from canceling or complaining or technicians from leaving. For example, if you have 30 some odd technicians and three of them leave, that's not a huge percentage of technicians that left during the summer. I mean, if you run a business in the summer, there's technicians that constantly come and go in the summer. But if three technicians leave, that means there's like, I don't know, 240 pools now that next week that aren't getting cleaned. So how do you do it? Well, you can't train people fast enough to do it. So you have to split it up amongst your other people, but they're already slammed. And so now they're not happy and they're shorting the work, or you're plugging in someone who doesn't know the pools or can't do the work well. And it's just going downhill and downhill and downhill. And it feels like everything's on fire and you're always stressed. And that just completely changed. I had 7 people in the office that were working, way too long, from 8 a.m. to like 6 p.m. most days, just trying to tread water, and they would deal with complaints all day and frustrations and put out fires. 2 years after, getting Pool Brain working to the point where we had it pretty dialed in. We had 3 people in the office instead of 7, and it was much, much, much easier. Everyone at like 3 p.m. was just twiddling their thumbs, ready to go home in the middle of the summer, because we just had a organized to-do list that the software produced automatically. We didn't have the training issues, we didn't have the turnover issues. That's just again just scratching the surface. And I know people who have run large companies out there can relate to this, that feeling of anxiety. But that is the biggest thing for me that changed my world, was just I felt good about waking up in the morning and going to run my business, and felt like I had control of it and I could grow it, and people were happy to be a part of it. Before, it was just a lot of stress, and then it turned into like a good team that was really happy to be there working hard towards a common goal.
That's awesome. That's pretty legit. I mean, you got to have software. I mean, there's uh, nothing else to say about it. I don't know how else you would even do it. So one of my biggest problems when testing out new software, I mean, in anything that I do, especially swimming pools, is that initial sort of onboarding. You know, I have 100 pools, 50 pools, 200 pools, whatever it may be, and getting them on a new software and really kind of going through that process. And everything has a little bit of a learning curve because it's different. Can you walk us through kind of just what that looks like in the beginning?
Yeah, and you're exactly right. Obviously, all the pain is up front, and the big change, no one likes change. So what we do to alleviate that are two things. Number one, we have like I said, a full sync with QuickBooks Online. So even if you don't use QuickBooks Online, let's say you use QuickBooks Desktop, or you use something else and you don't want to use QuickBooks Online, you can still get all your information into QuickBooks Online typically. So you can create like a free demo account. There's a million ways to export or your information into QuickBooks Online from whatever you're using, and usually what you're using already integrates with it, so you've already got your stuff there. Then when you start with PoolBrain, you just sync it into PoolBrain, and your customer names, the addresses, the phone numbers, the emails, the all your products and services lists, your invoices, payments, refunds, all that stuff can be made to sync over, and vice versa. And so that takes a big part of the like manual entry or switching off your hands. So all that's just there. Your customers there, addresses there, parts and products, they're all there. So then it just comes down to setup as far as configuration for settings. And the more you automate, the more important that is. And we automate a lot of things. So we try and make it as easy as possible for people by offering free onboarding to every company, no matter how big or small you are. We offer the same amount of, basically unlimited assistance, but we usually can do it in like 1 to 2 hours tops, even for very large companies. And by the end of that onboarding, nobody really has to reach out to us again, typically, for anything. There's little small things here and there, of course. It's not like we're just done forever, but for the most part, they're pretty self-sufficient after that. Because once you have the settings, once you have your workflow set up, your service level set up, your billing default set up, all that stuff, it's just point and click, or it happens automatically. It's just quick selections. It's all right there. So that's how we make it easy, is we walk you right through it.
Yeah.
to say something very long and then make it a short summary.
Yeah. So I don't know, what are some good tips? Like, say somebody's like, this is awesome. I need to try this out. Like, how is there like a day of the week, or is there like a time of day? How much time should they dedicate to maybe doing this? Like, don't, somebody canceled a meeting and you've got 30 minutes to spare. Like, probably don't jump right into it.
Yeah. So I would say also a lot of people, they have a tendency, and I would be the same way, is to try out the product. They want to create an account and play with it themselves. And I get the urge like to do that, but that's not the best way to experience it or to evaluate it. The best way by far is to do a demo with us, which you can go to our website, poolbrain.com, schedule a demo for any available time. It takes about an hour. So that's all you have to do. And we can show you real examples and walk you through it. And the reason I say don't just start a trial and play around with it, because you'll be underwhelmed. It's a blank slate. You're looking for the magic for Pool Brain. Well, the magic happens after you've done, weeks of jobs, and you see all the graphs and the data and the alerts and how it all plays together with your service levels. But none of that exists when you create a free trial account. So we can show you real data examples on the demo, and we can actually tailor it to you, because every company, like you said, regionally is different. Even in Arizona, there's a lot of different ways people run things and the questions they have. So we can show you how you can customize it to you and actually give like a tailored presentation to you. And that's what I would recommend. And then we can go right into the onboarding, whenever you're ready, and it's off to the races from there.
Very good. Very good. So how do you charge users? Can you share with us just as much information about that as possible?
Yeah, of course. It's pretty simple. We try and make it as easy to understand as possible, and it's just by the technician. So if the technician needs it needs to use the app in the field, then they are an active technician, and we charge $39 a month per active technician. It doesn't matter how many pools you have or what dollar amount you put through the system. It's just active technician. We don't charge anything extra for office users. There's a $10 minimum flat rate to have the account open. And mostly that's just there because, like you said, there are companies up in the Northeast or wherever where you close pools. And so they'll deactivate their technicians in the winter. And then we just have a $10 fee there to just keep the account open and store their data for them, basically.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
If you can relate to anything that I've said for running a business, um, you got to give Pool Brain a try because it really, really will genuinely change your life. And even if you don't buy that argument, let's go with the ROI on what it costs to lose a customer or get a bad review and how much business you lose in the future over that. Just from having the basic features that I started with when I was just doing it for my own company, like guided workflows, alerts, and chemical dosing. Once I got the guys to commit to the chemical dosing in the field and let this app just kind of do what it says and they do what the app tells them to do. That first year that they actually did that, it saved me $72,000 in chemicals. My typical spend was about 300,000. So for reference on the percentage of money you'll probably save using this, and it's the same things you probably already know. Like if you put in the wrong chemical, you lose money. If you put in too much chemical, you obviously lose money, and that's the most common thing. Is a technician just wants their job to be easy, and they think more chlorine, less chance of green pool, easier. But obviously, it doesn't work quite like that. If you put in not enough chemical, you lose money because then the algae grows and then it's off to the races. So when you have a program that just always dials in the right chemicals for you, that alone saves a lot of money. But then also when you watch the pressure alerts on the other side, and so you can catch any flow issues on top of chemical issues, you eliminate green pools by like 85%. It's a crazy claim, but it's true. And complaints to the office stop by 90%. The phones just stop ringing. The pictures are there proving you did your job. The pool's nice and clean. You got before pictures when they should be taken, after pictures when they should be taken because of the workflows. And it just makes it really, really easy to run your business.
That's awesome. Well said, Adam. Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And, you are a very smart guy that knows your product in and out. That is, anybody listening to this couldn't argue that. So thank you. Where can people find Pool Brain and how can they reach out to you?
Thank you. I appreciate that. You have poolbrain.com. Just that's the simplest, most direct way. Poolbrain.com. There's a messenger in the bottom right corner. I monitor that. My sales manager, Matt Quasi, monitors that. A lot of people know him in Arizona as well from the pool industry. And we can usually respond within 30 minutes to an hour at the most.
Awesome. Well, look forward to having you back on again, hopefully in the studio next time. But till then, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate you. We'll see you later.